What podcast is this? Hey, we're a Bergkamp Wonderland, and this week's podcast, I was just going to introduce a game, but it's not a game one. This is the weekly podcast. You can tell I'm flustered because I've forgotten how to do these. At some point, I'm expecting my YouTube to be on, and I'll hear myself back in it. But so far, so good. And glad everybody who is listening. Before I introduce the three other people, yes, this is a bumper edition of ABW because the Man City game was so exciting. Everybody wanted to discuss it. And I will start with the man, the myth, because you can't tell if he's on Twitter anymore because he definitely isn't. It's Kris the Pirates. How's it going, Kris?
It's a romp a minute enjoyment fest, Josh. It's honestly, I'm so enthralled by life and football and all that's in between. How the devil are you?
I'm great. I can't wait for us to dissect 4 ways the single shot on target we had against Man City. We can do all 4 corners of the compass. From every angle, we can cover that shot from Kieran Tierney. But that's enough spoilers for everybody. We'll get to that. First, I will continue introducing everybody. Next, it's Femi. Femi, how's it going?
Hey, all. How you doing? Good to be on the show. Looking forward to talking about our 11th place soiree.
Is it a trophy to finish in the top 10 now? That's we'll just leave that as just a question out there, rhetorical for everybody. You don't need to answer that one. And finally, coming in, last minute substitution, a bit like, I don't know how to describe this. I'm going to say Benteke off the bench for Palace because that's still a little bit raw. The one time he turns up, it's going to bloody Brighton, 95th minute. Anyway, it's Richard. Richard, how's it going?
Not too bad. Hopefully, I'm better than a Willian substitution, but I don't know who pulled a hammy, who tweaked a hamstring for me to come on, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, you're here now, Richard, pulling on heartstrings. What can we say? But let's get into this because we've got a bumper-packed agenda talking about 3 things mainly, I think. And I'll start with you, Kris. It's been a while since I think we podded like in a podcast forum. I think we've done live shows since, but let's chew the fat on that Man City review. I think it was the kindest way to put it before to give it some balance. I would say it was a respectable but humbling loss, to quote Adrian Clark in his breakdown from Arsenal earlier. But what were your thoughts on the game, and is it a defining moment of the season?
I don't think it's a defining moment because it's just like all the other moments that we've had in recent times in terms of the performance, the lack of energy, the lack of forward thinking, the lack of any ideas. I've listened to a few different forums since watching the game, and personally, I think I'm in a minority. Obviously, I don't know what the opinion was on some social media platforms on Sunday, but I thought it was embarrassing, and I stand by that. I think we're a bit of a shambles still, and I think a couple of results a few weeks ago kind of. Shall we say, neutered the moans and groans, but I just think a performance like that, I don't want to. When I say I don't want to support a club that's happy to lose to Man City, I don't mean it like as in I don't want to. Obviously I support the club for life. That's the way it is. But I don't want to come out of a Man City game going, well, we restricted them to 1 goal. Oh well, we only lost by 1 goal. Oh well, they're so far above us. I don't care. That's not the Arsenal I grew up with. Like, even in the very last knockings of the Graham era, we were still turning up to games against teams we knew we'd get beaten by, expecting to beat them because that was our mentality. It's always been ethos with Arsenal as a team, as an entity, as an enterprise, whatever you want to call it. And I just felt that we went into this game. A lot of the pundits were saying like, we made 5 changes, clearly looking ahead to the next game with Benfica, and we went into it damage limitation. We were the home side, and we barely got out of our own half for a long period. And then when we held a little bit of possession for 10, 15 minutes, we were being, lauded by the commentators. Oh, Arsenal played their way back in. No, we didn't. Man City just got the deck chairs and the flip-flops out and went, well, go on then. And we went, nah. We'll just have a bit of possession and just level it out. I just feel like we're at a level now where we just expect to get beaten by teams like City, and it's almost like a throwaway game. Are we going to play? Are we going to do this when we play Leicester? Are we going to do this when we play that lot up the road? Are we going to do this when we play Liverpool again? Like, you can't go into games like we did. I just thought it was. I thought it was limp. I thought it was just a bit, And the lack of shots. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, because we're the only team in the league who throttle the life out of possession and then refuse to strike it, or refuse to play players who actually like taking shots, which is another one that's starting to become a regular thing. It's only a matter of time before we play a centre back up front so we can hold the ball up for us. I don't know, mate. I'll give credit where it's due, and there will be some credit to give later on. But I just thought it was really limp.
Yeah, Femi did the post-live show from rightly after the game. What did you kind of summarise your kind of thoughts and pass over to Richard? What you kind of thought on the game generally?
I actually did the Benfica game.
Oh man,
which was myself and Dani did the Benfica game. No, it was Dani and
I was John.
Dani and John.
Dani and John, yeah. It was Dani
we do
and John.
too many games. That's the problem. We play
There's
too
a game
often.
all the time, isn't there? Yeah.
That was the last live show I watched anyway, and it sounded similar to Man City.
I don't know. Do you know, actually, when the game finished, I was sort of in the camp of, we were just bound to lose. Just that defeatist kind of spirit. And then I looked at our fixture list. I think I posted it in the group, actually, and I said, when I looked at the list and I thought, I don't feel confident about any of our next 6 games, even Burnley away. That's the honest truth. And then that's when it dawned on me that this is just the normality now of our of us. And then I looked at the table last year. We finished 8th, and that was, we were 10th on the last day, and we jumped up 2 places. So it's pretty much when you're doing it for 2 seasons in a row, you're around the same position. It will take a lot to get you out of that position. Let's just put it like that. Game wise, you go in every Man City game letting in a goal within the first 5 minutes. Literally every season that happened, especially at home, and you just leave yourself with no chance whatsoever. But we didn't actually give ourselves a chance as well, in terms of, we're very risk averse. We don't take any risks whatsoever. It's like, just let's keep it 1-0 if we're losing 1-0, and it's a weird one. Like, you can either, next season, you can either turn those 1-0s into draws or wins, or they can be bigger defeat. It could be one or the other thing. So we're kind of in a no man's land. So I don't know what we think about that, but yeah, that's all I can say, really. There's so much. There's just not much that you can say about every game. Is pretty much the same with the sameness now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say certainly for me that I'd kind of describe Arteta as a manager who, he understands attacking play. You can't be at that City side in the coaching unit and not understand intricate attacking play, but he seems better at stopping it than producing it. Like we saw against Man City, we only shipped 1 goal to them, and better sides than us have shipped more. But that's not necessarily because, we were pinning them back and they couldn't break on us. it was very much Arteta seems very good in the kind of tactical battle, and it generally gives us very boring games because he's so good at stifling an opposition, but then to the detriment of our attacking play. And Richard, did you see that kind of come across in the City game as well as, I suppose, Benfica game when we go to that as well?
Yeah, it's a strange one in the sense of, as Femi said, we're fairly similar to where we were last season. I'm not as down on Arteta and the team as many people. Like I said, I too, like, as Kris alluded to, I too lived under the dregs of the George Graham era, where I think it was like 94, 95, I think we lost like 17 games. We were trash. We were absolute garbage. I don't think the players that he's got at the minute can do what he's asking for them, which has a massive negative connotation going forward. What he wants, especially in teams against Man City, let's say where we're almost in the low block, trying to get an attacking force out of, or anything out of Aubameyang, he's always going to struggle, and then we've got nothing else. We just the biggest thing for me that really frustrated me in that game, because we've seen so many kind of like false dawns with this Arsenal team. We pull out one kind of, or like one half, and then we think, oh, we've clicked it. It's, you know, for the half a game against West Brom, 44 minutes against Wolves, there's these little green shoots, and then you get a game like Man City where, yes, we only lost by 1 goal, but the performance was, especially in that first 20 minutes, was just awful. Just the biggest difference for me that I would have hoped that Arteta had installed in the team a lot more consistently is a mentality. We looked petrified of Man City, with and without the ball. When they had the ball, we were just standing off them and jockeying them, giving them like fight. And you can't give elite level players at that level 5-10 yards to do whatever, to pick out whatever pass they want. And then when we had the ball, everyone was absolutely bricking it, and that's why we kept on losing possession. It was really, really frustrating. I can see what he's trying to do, Arteta. Do we have the patience or even the budget next season to get what we want? I genuinely don't know, because I think the solutions for him to make this team better obviously don't lie in this current squad.
Yeah, I'd say a couple of statistics that kind of help show that I know what you're trying to get to, Richard, that especially with Arteta's progression with this side, if we look back at the Unai Emery era, across the 2 seasons, well, 1.5 seasons he was with us, we kept 10 clean sheets in the league. And Arteta, since he's come in, he kept 8 clean sheets just last season in that short period of time. And we're on 8 again this season. So chances are we're going to, well, you'd hope we break into double figures and into the teens at that point. And you can see he's fixed. Well, I say fixed in inverted commas, our defensive play. Title-winning sides tend to get about.
We're
18,
up
19.
in like the top 2 or 3 of best defenses in the league. Are we not? I don't know if you have the stats to hand. Like I said, I don't want to put you on the spot. What's our goal scoring stats compared to under?
We've failed to score in 10 games this season. 10, and I remember it being. And I'm sure this one, we don't need to hop back into many people's memory banks. I think we can all remember about 10, 15 years ago, where it was a meaningful stat when a Wenger side didn't score in a game. if they even got one in a season, I remember we had that run. I think it was 3 or 4 seasons where we scored in every single home game. Even if we got battered, we still scored. And I think that's the kind of crux of the problem. And Kris, do you think it's do you think it's just the players, or do you think it's the manager as well? Do you think there's a combination that he's not, or a combination of the two? Run with that.
Yeah, I mean, I get stick from people fairly regularly. I know, surprising, about the fact that I don't think this is a bad squad. I don't. Do I think it's a title challenging squad? No. I'm realistic enough to admit that. But do I think this squad is as good as Leicester's, Spurs's? I mean, even Liverpool's. You take the front three away, are we that much different? It's. I think the thing that sort of worries me about, I think Rich and Femi both sort of touched on this. The thing that slightly worries me with Mikel is he's almost what he was as a player that I really liked about him was sort of that sort of stability, and he just kept things ticking over, and he did the simple things well. It's almost like that's come into his management, and it's definitely come into his press conferences. He's one of those managers that you can sit and listen to a press conference, or you can listen to him analyze and break down a game, and he's absolutely brilliant at saying literally nothing. Like, go back and listen to some of the quotes he comes out with. Some of it is completely contradictory in terms of the players, which we may touch on later on. And a lot of it, where he says about tactics and stuff, he just doesn't answer questions. And I wonder if the players look at that at times. And this whole sort of stat of, I think Phil put in the chat, even Phil, that it would have been more embarrassing if we'd have been turned over heavily. I tend to disagree with that, because I just want to see my team try. Put something in. The criticism that Wenger used to get was, he would just play all out attack and, we'd get humped, like the game at Old Trafford, the 8-2 and all that. So don't get me wrong, there's a balance. You've got to set up sensibly. You've got to set up tactically. But the days of like the times to do that were the times last season in the FA Cup semi-final and to a big degree in the final. They're the games where you play that defensive style and you take your chances. When you play at home, albeit in front of no fans, just try a bit. Just what's the worst that can happen? If we'd have pushed forward in that last 20 minutes, I mean, I think we should have pushed forward a lot earlier than that. Because the one thing that Guardiola will know, particularly when he knows about Arteta, is he's going to turn up at the Emirates. He knows City are going to dominate the ball, they're going to dominate the chances, and they're going to have the game in front of them. They can play the way they want to play. Because he knows that we're, as Femi said, that we're shit scared of them, that we're afraid to try anything. And we just sat there, and it's just painful to watch. Why not attack them? And if you look at the teams, I remember when Crystal Palace went to Man City and they beat them, I think it was 3-2. Andros Townsend scored that banger. That's how long ago that was. And why did they win that game? Because it was a complete element of surprise. Why did Leicester win the league playing the way they did? Because they just took the game to oppositions. Albeit, yeah, you get a lot of luck on the way. I'm not denying that. But that's my concern. And to sort of bring it back to your question, between the players and the management, it's not just the management. There's a lot wrong with a lot of our players. We've got the wrong captain. I know I'm just going to keep banging that drum, but Aubameyang is a lot of things. The captain is not one of them. You can be a dressing room leader and one of the lads, but to have that armband, I think you need to be a stronger personality than Alvarez. And when he's having a stinker, you can see it in his body language. That ain't inspiring anyone. And I think some of the players that we've got in and around the squad, it's not just the players that aren't playing. It's some of the players not just the players that are playing. It's some of the players that aren't playing. If you're a player in midfield and you glance over at the bench and you see Willian sort of gingerly trotting out for a little stretch, you're not really worried about your place for the next game, are you? So there's a fine balance. So, there is a lack of quality. I don't dispute that. But is the squad we've got a squad that should be 10th, 11th, even 7th or 8th? No, it's a squad that should be in and around the top 4. And I'll fight anyone who says otherwise, because it is good enough. It's good enough. They've all got to be fit, of course, and Thomas Partey is a huge part of that. But you know, I just worry. I worry that Mikel's going to be one of those managers who has a plan A, thinks about a plan B, thinks about a plan C, thinks about a plan D, and then goes, "Nah, plan A is fine." Yeah, that worries me a lot. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, guys. What else? Is there anything you want to add to that in terms of? Certainly, Pep Guardiola was. Some were saying patronisingly, blowing smoke up Arteta's arse after the press conference. Certainly, I was one of those because I have seen how Guardiola talks about sides who allow City to play and then get beaten by City.
Sides who are no threat to Man City is what you mean.
No
opposition.
Yeah, let's just say he never credits Sean Dyche when they smash Burnley, because Burnley would tend to try and smash Man City up in the air before any of their players can get through. But if they lose to a Brighton or a Fulham, then Graham Potter's doing wonders here. There's stuff that I've even learned from this. Like, yeah, if you try this, just knock it round the other way, be fine. Say like Scott Parker, you're like, he's done a great job with Fulham, they'll be fine. And yeah, for me, Richard, what do you think of that kind of stuff?
I was just thinking that it's, if you look at the league, obviously there's a few teams that have got much better than, let's say, for example, when Arsene Wenger left, quite a few teams have got better. So what I think we're in a position of now is, if Wenger had stayed, this is probably where we would have been playing this type of football, because we were heading in this direction, if you see what I mean. So we've probably been 8th, 9th, 10th type thing. So now we're basically, what we're doing right now is Arteta the manager before the manager, if you get what I mean? Where the Emery one, it was just the disaster, where it just, the players just totally lost faith. But is Arteta the man that's going to steady the ship, get a solid base for then another manager to come in and do the actual job that we need to be done? Or are we going to just, as it seems, which is what I personally think is happening, we've handed the keys to Edu and Arteta, and the owners have just gone, you do everything. Vinay, you raise the money for them that they need to spend. We trust you. We'll look in every now and then, but you two have the keys. Do what you want to do within this budget, or the budget that Vinay sets you. That's what I think is happening. Now, how long will that go on for? How long will, let's just say they've had a season off from the fans, because the performances at the Emirates would not have gone down well with the fans at all. Let's be honest. I mean, no matter how much time the fans want to give him, if you see your team not scoring in how many games at the Emirates, probably 6 or 7 maybe, that we haven't scored a goal, it just wouldn't go down well. So you've had that free hit of a season. How long do you have now? How much, I'm sure we're going to get into players at some point in this conversation, but you now, as a manager, as a coach, what is your plan? What is the plan? Like you're saying, a plan. Someone said we've never had a plan B. Yeah. What is your plan B when you're 1-0 down? Is it to throw on more players into the same positions? Or is it to go for it? Is it to change the formation? Is it to go 2 up front? Is it to do something different? I can't be sitting here and saying West Ham have a better squad than us. And fair enough, they're on a hot run. It might be confidence, but there's no way West Ham have a better squad than us. But how are you utilizing the players you have? Do you have too many players? Is that a problem? Is he overthinking it with the players? Is there like issues? I'm sure that's something we'll come on to. Is there too many? Where is this player? Everyone keeps asking, where's this guy? Where's this guy? Where's that guy? Are we rotating the squad enough? Are we making so it's all these little things that you as a coach, you have to answer these questions. And I think someone put in the chat that the journalists ask stupid questions, to be fair. you know, if the journalists can't, we will never find out. We're not in the stadium. Our only output is journalists asking questions, and you know, we need better questions to be asked so that we understand what this process is. Not just, you know, oh, it's the process. We have to trust the process. What is the process? What are we doing? You know, that's my take on everything.
And I think, certainly from my perspective, with a process, is it's not something you see overnight. You see the effects of a process. Unfortunately, it's over months, years. That's when you see what's happening with a process. What we've seen
I think
from
getting rid of all these players. I think getting rid of all these players, the Socrates, Mustafi, Özil, that is part of the process. I kind of think, I know what they're saying about trust the process and stuff like that, and I think next season is the shit or get off the pot thing for Arteta and Edu. If things stay the same next season, they've surely got to be done, because he's had 6 months. He's now had this season, which, you know, it's a weird, messed up season. Like Femi said about, they've had a free ride out of all the fans, no one being in the stadium and stuff like that. We see the same with all the other clubs. I think this is one of the first ever seasons where there's been more away wins than home wins. You know, I think there is a plan. It's not coming to fruition, and that's what I said at the start of my ramble at the start of the show. Is I don't think the solution to what Arteta is trying to do resides in this current squad and formation, however good they are and stuff like that. And I agree with what Kris is saying in the sense of, on paper, this squad is better than the position that they're in. I don't think that they can necessarily or have been able to do what Arteta has wanted them to do, if that makes any sense. And I think this is the process. I think this ambling around this season and trying to sort out as many contracts as they can, and then, like I said, hopefully go big in the summer and sort some stuff out and get more of the players that they need. Now they've got this massive wages off the books, to maybe readdress some things and again go again in the summer. I think that is part of the process.
Yeah, I think when we come to journalistic kind of questions of what are we asking, I think one of the key questions that has been asked is also, well, it's why aren't we scoring enough goals? Because that is the fundamental issue here. When we look at it, you know, we've only scored 31 goals in the league. And whilst, you know, we've only conceded 26, and that puts us third for, you know, how good our defence is, there's other sides around there that, you know, saying we're on 31 points is as a 31 goals scored is the same as Southampton in 14th. And I think that's the kind of problem that we're at. I think Dani's just put up for those watching on YouTube where our goals have come from. I think this is all competitions at the moment being shown. But what's Arteta going to answer that? And you know, as Kris has alluded to, it's going to be a nothing answer, isn't it? It's going to be we work on it every day in the training grounds. We work on our attacking plays. We're not going to get the answers we want, because you can blame the question asker, but it's also the guy answering it is going to tell you exactly what he wants to tell you. And if he wants to tell you to shut the fuck up, he's going to spend 10 minutes filibustering about tactics and how it's not just Aubameyang's fault. When you look at it, he contributed 22 goals to us last season. And right now he's sitting on 8, 3 of those coming in a single game for us. And it's that kind of question over and over again of where do we kind of go from here in the attacking style? Is it because we don't have the players? And Kris, you've just said with the squad we've got, it's not a bad squad. There's goals in it. You know, if we play to their strengths, there's goals in this side. the questions are why aren't we playing to its strengths? And is it a case if we just sit back, like Femi was saying, and trust the process, and come next summer or the backside of next summer, we've got a squad that Arteta will then be able to, jump from. But I think the question I kind of say to everybody here is, what is left for the league now? Because the foundations that we're building have got to be on top of a side that is still doing okay in the league. So, Femi, I'll come straight to you on this because we kind of spoke about the process already, and just to mix up the order as well.
Yeah.
In terms of what's next for us in the league, where do you envisage this side finishing, bearing in mind the results we've currently seen? We've been unlucky in games, but, referees are referees. I mean, next they'll be asked to be applauded when they enter the field of play because they're a hard done by group of individuals. But what do you think about this side? And is a 10th place finish good enough for us to be able to build a foundation on and attract the kind of talent we need?
Okay, so if you're talking about the league, then you're looking at the next 5 league games is what I put up. Okay, Leicester away, Burnley away, Spurs at home, West Ham away, Liverpool at home. I think by the time you get to the Spurs at home game, you kind of know whether you are going to finish in the top 6 or not. Let's forget top 4. Let's say top 6. You'll probably know by then. Then you kind of have to make a decision if you're still in the Europa League at that point, what you prioritize at that point. And when you start trying new things for the new season, like you said, I think you said Martinelli's being trained for the front position. Okay, but ridiculous decision was to bring him on. He's been trained there. He hasn't played one game for Arteta up front, and then you bring him on in the Europa League, which is your primary competition, and you put him down the middle with 20 minutes to go as his first chance or first trial in that position for you. Okay, so you get to Spurs at home. Obviously, you have to prioritize that because you know what it means. But one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to be finishing in the Europa Conference League place. I think it is. Is it probably 7th, maybe 8th? Do you, as Arsenal, want to be the one English team in that competition? That's something that we're going to have to get to at some point and say, are we happy to be the first English team to qualify for the Europa Conference League? Would that be an embarrassment, or is it just get in? It doesn't matter. Just make it happen. Get in that competition, and we need Europe. Go on.
I'd say the worst thing is if we don't win that competition based on the standard of other teams that would come in from other countries and other divisions. It's not the case of, I'm sure we're going to go into this on the Europa League.
I'll be honest with you. If we went into, anyway, we're not talking about next season, but if we went into that competition, you just play all the kids. I mean, whatever. But we're now in a position where, okay, when do you start planning for next season? When do you start playing players for next season? When do we start seeing who's going to be here next season? I think we're already starting to see that now with the Nketiah's not playing, Reece Nelson. They're nowhere to be seen at all right now. So we have to start planning for the season. Is Hector staying? Is Lacazette staying? By March, April, you got to be making those plans. Well, March is next week. Yeah, you got to be making those plans. And if the league is just a free hit, then it's a free hit, isn't it? But I mean, do you expect the consequences of criticism when you lose, whether it's a free hit or not? It's gonna come. So it's gonna be a tough balancing act. But if you're still in the Europa League, you have to prioritize that, whether it's resting players or anything like that.
Yeah, Rich, where do you think about prioritizing the league, and has anything changed in the last couple of weeks? I'm not imagining we were taking 3 points against Man City as a given, but where are your kind of thoughts been about where you see us finishing up based on the last couple of results?
Well, that's one of the things. Like I say, it's so frustrating because there has been, like I said, every now and again a little green shoot, but it's just there's so much mud in that green shoot that it's. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. For every, like I said, for every promising half against Wolves, you've got the absolute dross against Villa, where we don't pay attention. We go 1-0 down, and it's we then cannot do anything to get back into the game. Like, it's just ridiculous. I think the league is pretty much almost done now. I think we're 11 points away from the top 4. It's yeah, like I say, I'm trying to have a look at that now. Yeah, I think, like I say, we're 11 points away from like the top 4 or whatever it is. I think that the priority is going to have to be the Europa League. But you have to kind of take every game as it comes. I know it's a bit of a cliche. Maybe the Sunday game before a Europa League game, you're going to have to rotate your team. But anything else, you have to play what's in front of you, and I can't. I think it's going to be more of the same, especially if he keeps persevering with how we're persevering, and not having Partey playing, and do you know what I mean, having a slow start. I think it's going to be more of the same. I don't think it's going to be massively different to the rest of this league. Rest of the league positions, and then, like I said, we almost like you have to kind of. There's a bit of it, kind of like treat this, getting this team now ready to kick on for next season. Now start pre-season now, kind of thing. You say we're training Gabriel to be a central striker. Fantastic. Get him training in now, so that in August he's and the league starts again proper, and we've got a fresh, clean slate that then he's ready to go. Kind of thing. I think we need to get into some form of Europe, to just for money wise, and also not even that. Even if you've got a squad, to then play the squad in these Europa games and Europa League games and stuff like that, we need to be in as high a European place as we can. Could you imagine if we get into Champions League by winning the Europa League? I'd be ridiculous considering how bad we've been this year. But I think we've just got to try and take every game as it comes. I know it sounds like a cliche, but I think the biggest thing for me that I want to see change is our mentality. I want us to go after teams and go after games and be aggressive, because one of the things that happened in, say, like the Wolves game and stuff like that, they gave us space because we were in form and we were playing well, and we went after them and they were scared of us. Man City were not scared of us in any way, shape or form, and other teams have done that to us this season as well. They know that if they get after us, they could trouble us. And I think we need to be more aggressive and reciprocate that going after teams, and to stop being meek, kind of thing. Because, like I say, it's all a bit dull at the minute, and listless and lifeless.
Yeah, I think the kind of way I say it is, you'd rather be a swashbuckling Blackpool and go down rather than be Sheffield United this season, in the way that the result's going to be the same, but wouldn't you rather have fun getting there? And I think, like you say, the league seems to be what's the worst that could happen kind of thing. Just go for it. And Europa League, we've seen that the way that Arteta can shut games out and get this team to get through cup ties, that leave the pragmatic stuff for the Europa League. If that's what you want to play it there. If that gets us the win all the way to the final, then fair enough. But Kris, let's go into that next tie as well, because we saw from the first game against Benfica, we had our chances, we didn't put them away, and then they get the equaliser. How difficult is the second leg for us over in, I can't remember which country we're playing it in. Greece,
yeah, Athens. It's as difficult as we want to make it. One thing I I will say is that you can't blame the manager for missing 3 gilt-edged chances in the first leg, which would have put this game completely out of reach and done. You can't, that's not the manager's fault. That's the players' fault. So that's one thing I would say. We should be done and dusted in this tie. The problem you've got is you've got a Benfica side who are struggling. Like they're not the Benficas of old. I think it's fair to say they've got a fairly aging defence. The fact they raced in a debutant to play for this game, having never played for them before, speaks volumes about the defence. But they are a side that can give you problems, and at any given moment can stick the ball in your net, as they proved against us in the first leg. So it all depends on mentality. We've got to go out there and take the game to them, and I do genuinely believe if we go out with that mentality and we go after them, we can be 1 or 2 goals up comfortably and see that tie through. Because I genuinely don't think Benfica have got a huge amount. But if they score first, we're in for a very long night. I'll tell you that, because I don't back us to break teams down if they've got something to hold on to. I'm not sure I back us to break teams down when they haven't got anything to hold on to. So it's going to be I think personally we need to score early and we need to go at them quickly. A bit of a wider point on this though, in terms of the Europa League. There's a few people that have floated this idea and I agree with them. We say we get past Benfica, great. I look at this Europa League batch of teams, and I don't see any way that we're winning this tournament without a huge slice of luck in terms of.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's going to take a lot of teams to draw each other and put each other out, and us to get very lucky draws to get through. If we draw a Leicester, or heaven forbid, even that lot up the road, who I never fear, whatever form they're in, because it's them. But you wouldn't want to be playing a Mourinho side, and you certainly wouldn't want to be playing a Mourinho side that is currently struggling and him taking pelters, because that he's going to pull out a performance when when he least expect it, which probably keeps his job. I wouldn't want to play United just because it's United, and again, yes, that I don't think they're anywhere near worthy of the praise they've been getting this season, and they rely on one player for penalties and not a lot else. But they are the side that on any given day can turn up a performance against us. And Leicester the same. Leicester over 2 legs scares the crap out of me. That's where we are as a club. Scares the living crap out of me. And there are other clubs. I mean, Leverkusen lost 4-3 to Young Boys. Leverkusen, they were 4-0 down in that game. So there's no easy ties. Ajax beat Lille, and this is one of the worst Ajax sides in years. So I obviously, I hope we get through. Of course I do. And I'd like to see us put in a performance. I'd like to see us put in the players that are going to drive us on and push us on in this competition. But yeah, I don't want to be negative Nancy, but we're going to have to up our game considerably to win this tournament. And that's where my worry comes in, because much like, as you know, Josh, might have to drag a French football reference in here some way or other. This is how I'm going to do it. The criticism that's levelled at PSG is they can't turn a poor league. Thank you, Dani. They can't turn a poor league, quote unquote, whether you agree with that or not. They can't then raise their game for the big European games. They're almost doing it the reverse this year, by the way. But that's what I fear. We might get through Benfica, but if we're still playing like we are in the league, and we're still struggling to get league results, it's very hard to then bring yourself back up a level to European fixtures. It's a lot of eggs in a very, very paper thin basket. So let's hope we get the job done. But if we do, the draw is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think the draw is key. I think just some select sides from the Europa League. Some may get through, some may not. But so we've already mentioned Spurs, United, Leicester, Bayern as well. We've got a Napoli side that Gattuso's hanging on with. I think he's on fingernails now onto that job, so they're not doing particularly well. You've got Lille, who are currently taking the PSG spot in Ligue 1 at the top of the table. Roma playing fairly well in Serie A, and AC Milan, who, aside from getting a besting by Lukaku and co earlier, same time we were getting beaten by Man City, I think. that game was going on. There's some very good sides, as we say, in here, and I think everybody's probably under no illusion that if we get into the Champions League next year, it's purely that we're aiming for that third position in the group.
And
And
let's
another
not,
Back
thing,
into the Europa League.
so another thing we
It's good
got
for
to
him.
consider as well is depending on which teams we draw as we go through, we might not have a Emirates game at all.
absolutely.
So we're going to Greece on Thursday to play our home game, and it could just work out that with everything that's happening, we might just not play at the Emirates throughout this.
But
this
with
run.
our home form, that's probably be a good thing in a minute.
And let's also not forget that we were all delighted that we drew Olympiacos last year. That didn't turn out too well.
Mm.
You know, it's all very well saying we don't want to draw one of the big sides. I don't want to draw. You know, I would like to draw a team out of form. If you said to me now, you can have Napoli out of form, or you can have an in form. You know,
Young boys.
Young boys, yeah, maybe not so bad because they're gone. But you know, a Shakhtar Donetsk, a Hoffenheim. You know, I mean, I wouldn't even want a Rangers at the moment, to be honest.
I just don't want one of the English clubs. I just don't want one of the English clubs.
Play Emery's Villarreal. Unai Emery coming back to.
That's written, isn't it? That's written in the stars.
Get his revenge.
0-0, 120 minutes, and then the ball goes in off Gabriel's arse. I think that's all I would say. And it's just, you know, it's. I think it's fair to say against any team in that Europa League on our day, we can beat any of them. Absolutely no question about that. If we perform like we have done in some games this season, and in games where we've actually gone at teams, we can beat anyone. But if we go into a game thinking, "Oh, this team are quite good," we don't really want to open up here, then we'll limp out like we did last year.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the comment. I think one of the comments from Avon Teddington has said it's a cup half empty. Now, while I understand, you know, optimism and everything, it goes like this. Every time we've had to step up to play any team on our level or above us this season, we've failed. That's the honest truth. And I've not wanted it to be true, but when we went on that run, when we're beating who we're beating, like who was around, like West Brom and Brighton and those teams, the run looked good. And then we went into a run where we said, okay, now we're going to play Wolves and Villa and City. And we said, let's see what we're really about now. And we still haven't won those games, unfortunately. So it's just that you have to look at, you know, around and say, okay, when are we going to step up to the plate? Or the run that we had in mid-November to December, it was all teams that were around us or above us. So, you know, when you get to that level, we just haven't shown that we're ready for that level yet. That's the problem.
And the one notable exception to that was Chelsea, where we played brilliantly. Yeah. But you have to remember, we played a Chelsea side who let us play, who were awful on the day, and who sacked their manager a week later. So, and again, that's not to say we didn't play well. We played very, very well. But some of that performance was about how the team performed against us, and the team that played against us was not the Chelsea that they are now.
That's all right. If we're going to put asterisks against Chelsea, I'm going to put 2 against Aston Villa and Wolves for us being uply robbed by 2 twats in black or perhaps fluorescent yellow in the middle of the pitch.
Especially Wolves, because Villa we didn't deserve anything full stop because we were just crap. But Wolves, we should have been 4-0 up in half an hour. And that also comes down to us not taking our chances, by the way. Because if we're 4-0 up, that penalty doesn't mean anything. But I do take your point. We should were robbed in that game. There's no denying that. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think in terms of our kind of preview for Benfica,
don't watch.
I think I was gonna go and talk about the players and what changes we kind of expect to happen. So
I have I've got a funny feeling that we're going to see Lacazette and Aubameyang play. I've got I think that he's going to rest Odegaard or take Odegaard out of the firing line, put Aubameyang back on the left. and put Smith Rowe in the middle. That would be my shout. I think Holding and I don't know, but he might play Pablo. I think Holding and Marie will probably come out as well, and Louise and Gabriel probably come back in. I can't see much else change. I don't think. Well, obviously, we're not going to play El Neni, are we? So that's probably one that's guaranteed to be a change.
And yeah, the only other one I was thinking was whether or not Cedric comes back into the side. And
For Hector?
Well, that's the question for everybody. Is it for Hector Bellerin? Because that's a player I think that we need to discuss as well, seeing as he was linked to a move away, not to PSG, to Barcelona in possibly one of the worst swap deals proposed ever in world football. It's up there with Alexis Sanchez for Mkhitaryan. But
what
Rich,
was the swap deal? This is the first I've heard. I heard about the PSG rumour, but not the Barca.
Junior Firpo, who is backup left back for Barcelona, and it just does not make any sense to me anyway. Partly as I'm not even going to say a Bellerin apologist, because I don't think he has anything to apologise for. I don't think I have anything to apologise for supporting Bellerin, who's having a better season than he had last season, and probably one of the best seasons in an Arsenal shirt.
Wow, you're the first person I've heard say that. I'm not even going to lie.
You know why?
Getting absolutely.
He's been getting pelters. Yeah, I mean, I could go a bit arrogant and say it's because nobody's watching what he's actually doing, and it's an assumption. I think if you're not in the stadium, you probably don't see the full part of what Bellerin's doing. Against Man City, he looked like he was being left exposed because we were playing him in midfield. And that's the crux of the problem for Bellerin. He's being asked to do something that Bellerin's not necessarily the best at doing. And that's not a player's fault.
He looks a bit off technically at the moment. I don't know what in terms of. But then when you know what, when you're talking about technically, when a player has so much pace, especially when they were in the latter Wenger years, one of the things that we noticed that players weren't training on the Arsene Wenger, under that coaching staff. I'll put it just as a whole. A lot of players were not training on. So where he had the pace, he could hide a lot of the technical deficiencies and not training on with the pace. So now where the pace is not what it was back then, you now start seeing, the heavy touches, and then when you're saying, being asked to tuck into midfield, it's even more noticeable there. So it's one of those ones where if that's the way we want to play, then you have to find a player that can play that way, because there's no point in saying, we're going to go and get Tyreek Lamptey and then stick him in, tucking into central midfield. So that's not his game. So it's all these things that you when you're building a squad, you have to look out for. Yeah,
and I'd say if you think back to Hector 2-3 seasons ago, where he's 22, 23, he's bombing down the wing and he's putting crosses in that isn't going to anybody. We've got a particular Scotsman who is very good at doing that at the moment. Flying down the wing, putting in a cross. He's got 1 assist this season in the league. And apparently he's putting in superb crosses. And I think that's something that it's what you kind of feel from the player. And I get that Hector doesn't have that kind of aura. And that's where, for me, I'd be keeping Bellerin and looking to get someone in younger, get someone in underneath Bellerin.
Is it me, or is Josh sounding like a
He's a Dalek.
Again, right. For fuck's sake.
I think it was
I'm
mine.
switching off my mic. I'm turning off everything. Is it me?
Such a professional outfit, aren't we? Jeez.
Turn it off and back on again.
Or is it worse?
No, that's better. That's fine. Yeah,
there we go. It just needs plugging in, plugging out again. It happens every hour, or maybe everybody who hates Hector Bellerin had finally found my IP address and just started disabling my microphone. It's probably that. But yeah, I think for me, you keep Bellerin and Cedric in for another season. And the question is, if you get rid of Bellerin, does that mean Cedric's staying for another 2 seasons on top of that when he's getting to his late 30s? And I don't know what people feel about that. For, if you're getting rid of one player, you've got to look at what we're doing with cover. And for me, I'd be rolling Bellerin out in a season or two's time and bringing someone over to compete for being first place, being starting choice for there. But I don't know what anyone thinks to that point.
I don't think. I just briefly on Hector. I don't think he's. I don't think he's been bad this season. I just don't think he's been. The biggest problem I think that Hector suffers with is that he's not the Hector that we had pre-injury. The problem, the Hector we had pre-injury was what Kieran Tierney is probably now. He was fleet of foot. He was attacking. He was an overlapping fullback. What we've got now is arguably the Bakary Sagna edition of Hector. He's a lot more physical. He's a lot more robust. He can't take a throw in. But, I think he's a different type of player. One thing, and this is just purely a personal thing. I'm not a professional manager, obviously, but one thing I always dislike in either a team I manage or play in, or a team I watch, I don't like fullbacks that don't do the same thing. Like I either want two attacking, nippy, speedy fullbacks. I hate giving him credit, but like Brendan Rodgers does at Leicester, where he's got two proper attacking fullbacks, all energy up and down. Or I don't, I don't like the Arsenal model of one fullback's a little bit that and the other fullback's a little bit this. I think Brighton have it as well, Josh, in terms of like Lamptey is a very, very different player to Dan Burn, statistically and build and everything. So it's just, I just personally think you either go with attacking wing backs or you go with, Marcos Alonso and Azpilicueta type of fullbacks. You either want your fullbacks to defend and be solid, or you want your fullbacks to offer overlapping runs. And to that point as well, you can only play Hector if you've got the right player in front of him. And that isn't Nico Pepe, by the way, because those two, that's oil and water. Those two just don't work. If Pepe's on the left, fine. Or if Cedric's playing right behind Pepe, no problem. But yeah, Hector and Pepe don't work. And, the problem we've got with Bellerin as well is that it's almost it's Kolasinac theory, which sounds like a really bad 80s film. Everybody knew that we would force the ball down the left, Kolasinac to cut in. What are we doing now? Forcing the ball down the left to Kieran Tierney. And when he's not fit, we haven't really got anything from the left. So, it's all right saying, Emery was one-dimensional, but we're doing the same thing because we've got an elite left fullback, whereas like Liverpool, for example, had Robertson and Trent, so it could come from either side. So, I just think in the summer, we've got a decision to make, because if somebody offers us PSG level money for Hector, then I think we'll be quite tempted to take that, if I'm honest, because we sold our best goalkeeper because the offer was too good. So are we going to retain a right back who, let's not forget, what's Hector, 26, 25, 26?
25, 26, yeah.
So there you go. So there's still a lot of value in him, whereas there's not a lot of value in any of our other players, unless you're talking about Saka would go for 50, 60 million, for example, but you're not going to sell Rob Holding even on a new contract for 40 million, are you? You're not going to sell Granit Xhaka for 12 quid. So, do you know what I mean? He's one of the sellable assets, and and to Barcelona in particular, if they can rob a bank somewhere, you'd probably get a fairly decent amount of money. Firpo is not. He's your classic fullback who can't defend. He's very good going forwards, but he's your classic fullback who can't defend. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
he's got 2 years on his contract after this summer,
Bellerin.
So you kind of so you got to make a decision once again.
Yeah, you're talking aren't you, realistically, for a fullback?
Yeah, you got to, unless you don't want to. If you're hitting 2 years left, you're going to have a lot of players in that situation of 2 years left. So you kind of, I mean, who are you going to sell for money? I think there was a question about who you're going to sell for money that we'll probably touch on, but you need to start thinking. Okay, if the owners are not pumping in the Abramovich type money to pump in 220 million in the summer, you're gonna have to sell players to raise money. So it's that trade-off of who is actually sellable asset, who are you not giving free transfers to this summer. Let's see.
There's no big players coming in this summer, is there? I think we have to accept that. And if you look at the deal for what did United play for Alex Telles, who I think is probably a comparison to Hector. I think Telles is probably technically a bit better than Hector, but similar profile. And I think they paid was it about 32? I think for him.
I think so.
I'll look that up. Yeah, I think that's probably where you're. In terms of fullbacks, it's not a very sexy position to raise huge amounts of cash, is it? So,
says 15 million euros.
Was it that low? Jeez. Oh, was he in the final year of his contract? And he's 28. Okay, so that blows
28. Yeah,
that probably blows my theory out the water. So, well, So you add on maybe 10 million because of Hector's age, and you are talking around about 15.4. So 20 million for Hector. I mean. 20 million probably gets you 2.5 Willians, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. And then the question is, who comes in? Because if you are talking like Tariq Lamptey, who is predominantly a right wing back, he does not play right back for Brighton. I would put that in very quickly.
And he's
English. Exactly. And for me, it seems like, especially with, I'm going to say it, the Brexit rules, getting English talent is going to be key, really. It's either that or you're super creative out in smaller markets that are completely, are we going to be shopping in Belgium now? Are we going to be shopping more often from the South American divisions and pulling people straight over from there? Because they're hell of a gambles.
I'd rather gamble on a championship level.
Exactly. And if you go in championship
just
level
about
right back,
say the same thing.
They're English. Chances are that they're homegrown.
We should be shopping in the championship. Yeah, I know you watch a lot of championship, Josh. We should be looking at the championship market.
That's where I'd be going for a left back, and this is why I don't think Firpo's a good option. Get a championship.
If I said to you last summer, you could have had Willian and I think Gabriel's unfair because I think Gabriel's been a good signing. If I said to you, and don't get me wrong, I love Mo Nene, lovely chap. I'm sure he makes a lovely cup of tea. But if I said to you, you can sell him to Besiktas for 20 quid, and we'll keep his wages, and you don't get Willian, but you do get, a Max Aarons and there's a centre back. I can't remember his fucking name. There's a decent rated centre back in the championship at the moment, knocking about, and his name escapes me. But anyway, you look at that sort of player, or even a Todd Cantwell at Norwich. And you bring those two in. There's no way that you couldn't sign an Aarons and a Cantwell for it. Wouldn't cost you more money than it's cost us in wages for El Nene and wages plus sign on for Willian. And I think those two players would probably have offered you more. If even a Newcastle can get it's the ex-Norwich guy they've got. Murphy, is it?
Well, they have got Murphy, but they've got one of the Murphy brothers. They have Jamal Lewis at left back.
That's the lad.
Left wing back.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying he's the guy that will fire us to Champions League glory, but he was a steady, a sort of attack-minded fullback who I think if you took him out of Newcastle and again put him into a Southampton, or maybe not Southampton because they're in a bit of a bad spell, but I don't want to keep saying Leicester and Everton. Ben Godfrey, another prime example.
Yeah.
Good coaching under Carlo Ancelotti. He looks a really good player. Mason Holgate was on his arse at Everton going nowhere. Suddenly looks a really quality player. Good coaching. So there are gems in the Championship if you bring them in and if you coach them well enough. I'm not a Leeds fan by any stretch of the imagination, but their squad is 90% the Championship squad they had, and it's overperforming. So, I mean, just had to throw that out there. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're above us in the table. And, to be fair, yeah, exactly. It doesn't take a lot. So 50% of the Premier League are ahead of us in the table now. Where should we go from there? Should we go into... Well, Dani wanted to talk about all the players that Arteta's fallen out with, but 60% of them aren't at the club anymore. So I don't know how many we can go through at that point. And maybe we'll find that in the questions. So, Kris, we'll hand over to you for the questions. Hopefully, Dani might have given you some. Who knows?
I think he's doing it, so I'll take it from the top and work my way down, as the vicar said to the choir boy. So, Rich, let's give you this one. Matt L. Roberts. Why do people underestimate the Europa League this season alone? Why do people underestimate the Europa League? This season alone, nearly lost the first game, conceded first in Norway. Christ, I've forgotten about that. Jesus. Now we face a real challenge to go through. Benfica will not be pushed over Thursday night. Tie isn't over. I think he makes a good point there, Matt, to be honest. What do you reckon, Rich, to that?
Well, yeah, I think we touched on it earlier. We were saying that, you know, you've still got really good Lille still in it, Man United still in it, Leicester are still in it, that mob from Middlesex are still in it. It's not as easy. It seems a lot harder this year than it has been in the last couple of seasons and stuff like that. It's not going to be easy. I think people are maybe underestimate because it is the second rate European trophy, I think. And because we've got a fairly good record in it in the last, I think we got the semi-finals, we got to the final as well. Let's say apart from the Olympiacos debacle kind of thing, we've got a decent record in it. But it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, which is why I thought we would rest even more players than we did against Man City. But yeah, I think the reason why people underestimate is a kind of apathy and thing for the second-rate European trophy. I think that's the only reason why people would be underestimating it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And everyone just seems to think that we'll just roll into it and win it because we're us. Yeah, not so sure. Femi Cole wants to know, would it be so bad if Arsenal missed out on Europe next season? I understand the financial implications. However, the league should be the bread and butter. Could we concentrate on that for one season? So we've kind of seen that with teams that don't have European football in terms of, like, obviously Leicester. Who was the other team that didn't have European football recently?
I think Chelsea.
A couple
of seasons ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is there a bit of that, particularly in the COVID times we live in, where if transfer fees are to recover, you'd imagine it won't be this summer. It'll probably be more like next season, as in season after next. So is there a bit of a...
So if I let me just take out the financial implications as the question asks, just take it totally out, then I think the Thursday, Sunday thing is an absolute disaster, personally. I think ever since we've been in Europa League, we've just struggled to master. I think most English teams have struggled to master that, to be honest with you, the Thursday, Sunday thing. But we seem to have just, especially when we are a team that traditionally goes far in the FA Cup, let's say, it just messes up it's just impossible to do all three, to be honest with you. So for me, I would love to see us not having to play those Thursday, Sunday games. I'd love to see what we could be with more time on the training ground. And especially with the Europa League, when you get to this stage, you start to see where the difference is. So now this week, most of the Premier League teams have got a break. The teams in the Champions League, they alternate their games, don't they, every 3 weeks for the legs. The second leg isn't next week, is it? It's the week after, isn't it? So you alternate your games there. Whereas the Europa League, you play every single week because you've got an extra round, I think, or extra 2 rounds. So where we're playing last week and this week, Man United played last week. They got a break, a whole week off this week. We've got another round, not Man United, the Champions League team, Man City or whoever it is, Liverpool, and we've got to play this week. Then we've got another round next week or whenever it is before we then catch up to the Champions League teams in terms of the scheduling. But then when we catch up to them, it's when they move to weekly games. So it's such a tedious and hard schedule that I'd love to see us without Europe for one season, especially like I said earlier, if we're going to qualify for that Europa Conference League, we should do everything in our power to get out of that. We should lose the last game at home to Brighton if we have to, with 10,000 fans, if it means not going into that. We do not want to be going into that, I promise you.
No, I tend to agree. I think that's I'd just be interesting to see, just with one key focus, how well we could do in a league. But
then this league is so hard that it's such a much of a, the league there's so many difficult. Are we better than Leicester, or Leicester pulling away from us? It's not going to be easy just because we don't have Europe. So I don't think we should take that for granted as well.
No, that's true. Yeah, there's good arguments for and against, I think, both regards. But yeah, it's a good question. As is this one, Josh. Divyun asks, Arteta always says in interviews that we're a few transfers away from competing for the top spot. Do you think that affects the fight in the players, which I'm guessing means like the other players that are there? I actually think that's a really good point. If you keep on talking about the future, how do you motivate what you've got now?
I think we certainly saw that with the Dani dubbed Bundesliga bastards that we saw leave in January. You could see that the likes of Mustafi, Ozil, Kolasinac, Socrates were more detrimental to the squad because they were alienated from that fact of we just couldn't get rid of them. And I think that's one of the big things. I've not heard him say it since January with as much vigour as he did prior. I think because at least we got somebody in and we got rid of some people that were very disruptive behind the scenes. I remember when it was confirmed that we'd got rid of the last one, transfer window closed, it was the Wolves game straight away. And that first half, we looked like a team that had just had a weight lifted off its shoulders, that they were just training in a happy place. I think it might still be a problem in certain players' heads that if they don't think that they're good enough to be here, then they'll completely down tools. And I don't think that's the case now with many, if any, I can think of. It's maybe like a Callum Chambers. It's the only player. Reece Nelson, maybe. I think that kid's been poorly advised by whoever he's speaking to outside of the club about what he should have done with his career this year, because he has just fucked it. He shouldn't be playing in the reserves, but he's shown nothing to say that he should be playing in our starting 11. And should have gone out on loan. So that's where I kind of think that the players that are now a little bit uncertain about their position, I don't think would be kicking up as much of a fuss or don't have that same influence in the dressing room. So Reece Nelson not getting games, who's his social group in there? Who are the people he's chatting to? It's probably Smith Rowe and Saka. Those guys are playing out of their skin at the moment. He's not disrupting like those other players are. Same with Callum Chambers, best mates with Bob Holding, just come back from a long-term injury as well. So we're not sure what his thoughts are on, is it just a case of we're bringing him back in? That is a player I'm surprised we haven't seen since his injury as often. Because I thought he'd be, right up Arteta's street, to be honest. A player that can play, I say can play right back. He came through at right back, but doesn't necessarily mean that was his final position. At centre back, he was probably our best performer under the Emery era, was our best centre back. And we haven't seen anything from him. So, yeah, I'm not sure if it's a bigger problem as it was previously. And I'm assuming Dani is now just showing Callum Chambers' injury record. Yeah, because it says cruciate ligament rupture, so that would be Callum Chambers. And yeah, he's just not featured for us really. And that's just a question that I think we'll get to in a second anyway.
Yeah.
But for me, to answer the original question, do you think it's affecting the fight in the players? Only in the way of those that feel that they're comfortable in this position and aren't necessarily performing. I think we know which player I'm talking about, but let's just say he's got an afro and he's from Brazil and isn't David Luiz.
We should never have got rid of Olivier Giroud, who's just scored a bicycle kick for Chelsea in Madrid. So, Anyway, Rich, you can have this one from Avon. Are we going to be able to find buyers for the likes of Nelson and Nketiah, AMN, Willock, Guendouzi, Torreira, El Nene, Chambers, Mavropanos? Jesus Christ, he's selling everyone.
It's a fire sale. Holy smokes, everyone's gone.
Do you think there's buyers? There's always buyers, isn't there?
There's always going to be buyers. Whether we're going to get the money that we want is another thing. Bar a few transfers, like say Oxlade-Chamberlain and Iwobi, we've been last decade or so, we've been quite poor at selling players. You think of the the amount of money that Liverpool swindled out of Sheffield United for Ryan Brewster. I think that's his name. I don't know who's doing their transfer for selling, but so we need to copy that model because that was just ridiculous. I think there's always going to be someone that's going to want to buy your players. Like I said, there's always going to be a Sheffield United that are looking to get a Ryan Brewster and stuff like that, or an Everton to buy an Iwobi, or a Klopp to buy Oxlade-Chamberlain and make him the exact same player that he is when under Wenger. That always annoyed me, that thing. But anyway, I think there is going to be clubs to buy players. I don't think it's going to be you see it all the time where people go, oh yeah, we'll get 20 million for this person, 20 million for that person, and then we can buy up Meccano, whatever his name is, that went to Bayern Munich. And it doesn't work like that. It's not that easy, especially in these COVID times where clubs' finances are absolutely ruined due to this pandemic. I think there is going to be, let's say, clubs to think. I think who's on that list of people that are being sold? Did he say that fire sale? Who's
so Nelson and Nketiah and Maitland-Niles? I think all three of those are gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Willock, Guendouzi, Torreira, El Nene. I think two of those are definitely gone. Two, you could make an argument could stay. I think Torreira and Guendouzi are gone. I wouldn't personally sell. I probably would move Torreira on just purely because I don't think England really was his place. I think that's more for him. Guendouzi, I would personally like to see come back because I still think the talent's there, but it all depends on the attitude. El Nene will always find a place in our sort of squad, but it depends if he's happy with that. I actually think Joe Willock has still got a future with us, and he's proving he's a good player at Newcastle, but depends if he wants to play. And then Chambers and Mavropanos. Mavropanos will go because he'll just stay on loan for another season and eventually just go for like 10 quid. And surely Chambers will go because surely he wants to play.
Yeah, I think so. He's getting into the back end of his career. I think he's like 26, 27. I think is he something like that?
And he'd make a good for like a team that comes up, wouldn't he? Like a team coming to the top, or like he went to Fulham, didn't he, and played really well there.
And you look at contract expiry. He's got 1 year left on his contract. El Nene's got 1 year left. Nketiah's got 1 year left. Laka's got 1 year left. So we've got a hell of a lot of work to do this summer once again. Good luck to Edu. He's going to need that Premier League guy to come and help him because he's going to be stressed out again this summer.
And of all the players that have got one year or less left on their deals, I think Lacazette's probably the one most likely to stay now. And you wouldn't have said that 3 months ago, and not so much because he's earned a new contract, because I love him to death, but has he earned a new contract? Debatable. But is there a better striker out there that does the job that he does for us that's available right now? Not sure there is. Unless you go untried and untested in terms of, an Odegaard or something like that, then is there? I don't know. Better the devil you know. So, but Nketiah will get you, you're probably talking about 15 million, aren't you? But with a year to go, you have to sell this summer or not. I
think we'd be lucky to get like 10 million for him, something like that.
Yeah.
Like you said, just because of the length of contracting that he's got left.
And the people who are going to look to sign him. Because you think like someone like a Burnley or that kind of level club are probably going to be the sort of team that are going to buy him. They haven't got huge amounts of money. You're not going to sell an Nketiah to an Everton, are you?
You're going to have to hope that a side that came up from the Championship
has a lot of money.
Well, because they obviously had low overheads in the Championship.
Yeah.
Didn't overstretch in the summer. No one really overstretched in the summer, so should still, once the Premier League money comes in again, be able to do something with it. Everybody be Fulham. Everyone be a Fulham fan, basically.
Yeah.
And Norwich might be an option. They didn't sell many out there, and they're probably going to come straight back up. We were heavily linked with Buendia. In the summer, there are other players that people will want from them. They will have a cash injection of some degree in their squad, and it's going to be someone like that takes their chance on him. He's already shown that he's too one-dimensional for someone like a Leeds. He's got to be like a Southampton, to be honest. Sitting up next to Danny Ings, he needs to sit with another striker.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah. Agreed. It's an interesting list, that's for sure, of players. Right, we've got a couple of other questions left, but in the interest of time, I'll ask you all to answer these fairly promptly. Femi, you can have Jeffrey O'Hara's question. Who do you least want to play in the next Europa League game, assuming Thursday goes well? That's quite a good question. If you want a list of teams we could play, I can give you them if you wish, but
I'm looking at that list again. Who do I least want to play? Leicester City, probably.
Yeah.
I don't really want to play Leicester. I mean, I don't want to. I like you said, I don't want to play a Mourinho team over two legs. We no matter what the situation is, we are very poor against Mourinho teams on the best of days. And imagine 2 legs against Spurs, and we have another game. You know what? That's my choice. I don't want to play Spurs in the next round because we have another game with them in that period as well. And just imagine Mourinho just even though their defense is awful, worse than our defense. I can just imagine that he just always has this thing over Arsenal, no matter who the manager is, what team he's managing. We just never seem to do well against him. So yeah, let's not have Spurs, please.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think any of the English teams, I don't really. The Italian sides, I wouldn't actually be too concerned about a Milan or a Roma or a Napoli, just because I think again it's a sort of fixture on our day we can win. But I wouldn't really want the Spanish side. Well, actually saying that, Granada are actually ahead over Napoli, aren't they? I think they're 2-0 up, so they might get through that one. I wouldn't want to play a Villarreal for obvious reasons, because it's just like it's going back to your ex for Friday night afters. When you've got kebab running down your face and you're 3 shoots to the wind at 4 a.m. It just doesn't. It never ends well. So yeah, there's a
sound like you speak from experience there, Kris.
I don't know what you mean. Let's go to another question. Shashir Jasai, hopefully I pronounced that right, Shashir. If I haven't, I apologise, but I'm a mere mortal. Rich, you can have this one. With Stan's value apparently shrinking, do you really think we'll spend big in the summer? I can't see it. Neither can I, Jashar.
No, I don't think we'll spend. I think there'll be a turnover. I think there's a reason why they got rid of the amount of wages that they did and just got them off the books, kind of thing, with that loan. But a big name spending big money, no, I can't see it. I can't see it, especially as we've had a whole entire season with no fans, no income in the stadium. I can't see it at all, and especially if we don't get into Europe as well. I can't see it.
Yeah, right. I completely agree with that. I don't like the idea of, I don't like the thought of us spending heavily, particularly in this market, because it's not good value. I should give a nod to Avon's other question where he said, if we do get through to the next stage, what's the chances of meeting Villarreal? So we've just kind of covered that one. And Josh, I'll give you Phil Macker's question, which is, can any of these be achieved this season? Top 4, Europa League trophy, St. Totteringham's Day. I think the latter of the 3 is probably the most likely, isn't it?
Ooh, I'm still hopeful. All 3. Let's go that way.
I hope it kills.
Yeah, I think all 3 could happen, but it's a big ask.
It's a very big ask.
Yeah, I think when Femi put the list in the in our WhatsApp group of those previous fixtures, I think everybody then phoned NHS Direct for my own sanity. I nearly got sectioned over us going on an unbeaten run, and I think I had us winning 4 out of 5.
Yeah, good luck
in our next 5 games. Hey, I'll be a smug arsehole if it happens. Let's put it that way, and you will all hate podding with me for that time anyway, more than you do anyway.
I really hope you're right. It's like me and you have been transported between, because I think the only game we've really got much of a chance of winning is Burnley, and I don't think that's easy.
I don't see Dan's put it for us now. So Leicester City, just say Brendan Rodgers does love bottling something. He does love it.
Not against us,
and that's the kind of game that I think I had us drawing that. As long as we don't lose it, I can see Leicester dropping off, basically. Same with West Ham. This is where we were saying we need to win the games of teams that are around us. Well, Leicester and West Ham, we need to start taking points off them because nobody else seems to be doing it for us. So they start upsetting their runs, getting some wins against them. Burnley, I can see us getting that one. North London Derby, well, form's out of the window on that one, and we really need to turn up in that one, especially with what happened earlier in the season. And then Liverpool, that final one, that's another one that you're just like, we don't know which Liverpool's going to turn up, to be honest.
Oh, they'll be fine by the time.
Oh yeah, they'll be prime Barcelona. Don't you worry about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just know.
So, yeah. It's true. Sadio Mane will come back, and Salah will realise that he could actually pass the ball for once rather than just dribbling it into the box, falling over with all the grace of Tom Daly in a swimming pool. And
don't know about that.
Yeah, hope for the best.
Yeah, I just get those fixtures away.
What happened with the Leicester game, the home game? Didn't we batter them and they kind of got a hit and run going against? Didn't we? Yeah. I thought it was like 1-0, eh?
Yeah, but didn't we lose 1-0 to a Vardy goal, or was that?
Yeah, we got. I'm fairly certain we got screwed over. Lacazette scored a goal from a corner, which should never have been disallowed because allegedly Granit Xhaka was.
Oh yes, yeah.
Was in Schmeichel's eye line, and I say certain we battered them. Maybe I'm misremembering it, and then they got us on a hit and run kind of thing. They Vardy over the top and done us.
Yeah,
I think you've just described our last 6 games, haven't you? We've just been fucked over by somebody, a dodgy referee indecision, and we've been done on the break.
That's.
Do you know what happened? I tried to look for a positive, and it fell down.
I know that feeling. Yeah, I think Leicester weren't at their peak at that point either, so you could argue that. But yeah, final 2 questions. Some bloke called Carl wants to know why I'm not on Twitter anymore. Because of trolls like you, Carl. Yeah, and you should be. Have you not got work to do? Have you got tubes to sabotage or 5 fees to make late, or just get back to work, you troll? And Joshua, who I mentioned earlier on, also rather than a question, it's probably more of a podcast topic. So I'm just going to read it and we'll maybe save it for another pod. But he just said, I want us to succeed, as do I, as do we all. But I don't have confidence in his management of players' minutes and maintaining their match rhythm. What do you think? So, yeah, I think that's probably one we can revisit in a quiet week. But I think it's a fair thing to bring up in terms of players managed minutes-wise and whatnot. It does seem to be a little bit sort of paint by numbers as we go and let's hope for the best. So, yeah, I would tend to agree with that one. So there you go. Thank you to our lovely listeners for all of your wonderful questions. We appreciate it. Without you, we'd just be four blokes talking shit to each other on camera. So, Josh, back to you.
Perfect. One of those four guys talking shit right back at you. Yeah, I think that kind of rounds up the podcast for us. As you say, thank you for everybody who has submitted questions. And what else? Everybody who has watched, everybody who has listened, everybody who leaves us a comment, everybody who doesn't leave us a comment, everybody who subscribes, everybody who doesn't subscribe, everybody who likes the videos or leaves us a review. I was going to say an Amazon review. We're not on Amazon. Don't leave us a review there. Pointless. But I will say thank you to the three people who have joined us. I'm going to go in reverse order than I did from the introductions. Sorry, Femi. Still means you're in the middle of a Kris and Richard sandwich. But thank you very much, Richard. It's been great to pod with you again.
Thanks for having me. And Femi, there's worse places you can be, mate.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about that, Femi. But yeah, cheers for being on.
All right. Cheers, everyone. Have a good one and stay safe.
Yeah, and finally, he's back. He's not on Twitter, though. It's Kris.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Thank you for having me. And I know we're not doing shout-outs this week, but I just wanted to say how lovely it was to see little Santi Cazorla scoring another banger for his club in, is it El Sad, I think he's playing for, 95th minute winner on the volley across the goalkeeper. Beautiful. It's just lovely to see such a wonderful footballer playing football again. So, yeah, good on you, Santi. We love you.
And I will leave it on the note that he's playing in the Oil Farmers League. And Dani, you can switch this shit off now.